Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Manna Moments. Thank you guys for tuning in and being so diligent with watching these. And as far as I know, we are smack dab in the middle of winter right now. It feels like we are just getting hammered. Today was a snowy day. I think it's our first snow. And apparently it's referred to as a squall. I didn't know that until the other day. And I'm like, I thought that was just like a derogatory term. I didn't realize it was like a dusting of snow. But that's what we had today, apparently. So just be in prayer for those that are traveling through it. I know there's a lot of people that are having to, go in and out of town. There's a lot of sickness right now. There's a lot of people in bad ways with really serious health conditions. Pray for those. The Silk Women's Conference is going on this weekend, Saturday at 5 o'clock at the Fellowship Hall. So pray for that. Next weekend will be Hearts on Fire with our youth that will be taking them to Pigeon Forge for an overnight stay. And then the following week will be Thanksgiving. So we are just slammed to the gills. And then, of course, we're actually doing a Jingle and Mingle event for WCQR that I would encourage everybody to come to. It's at the Pavilion in Johnson City, December 5th. And it's the entry and exit way I think it's December 5th. That's right, on that Friday. And it's the entry and exit way for people looking at the Christmas trees and all that good stuff. So come out and be with us that night too. And we're putting everything together for our Elves for Jesus that we do every year. We're working on that. I actually also got the confirmation for our sign for the Christmas play, which is going to be called The Gift Exchange. That will be on Sunday night, December 14th at 7 p.m. Be much in prayer for that. We're really excited about it. It's going to be a little bit different than our other plays, but I feel like it's going to be a better visual representation than we've been able to give in the past. So we're really excited about that because the way that the church is constructurally built, it's really hard sometimes to convey a message when it comes to plays, especially that everybody can see and that they feel like they're a part of. So we've had really good attendance with our plays in the past, and we were thinking about not doing one because of just certain things and capacity, availability, and things like that, and of course with so much going on. But we feel like the way that we've put it together, it will be able to be done in 6 weeks. So be in prayer for that. If you have any questions, reach out to me too. Be also in prayer for our van ministry. I am trying to build that. It is a work in progress. I'm trying to, with the holidays and stuff coming up, I know it's kind of different because there's so many moving parts. So in my mind, I'm really working on the first of the year, really starting a clean slate on sending out mailers and different things like that. If you know of anybody that is in need of a ride, it doesn't necessarily have to be a child. It could be an adult or somebody like that. We will try our best to get them to church. So just let us know. But I've got a short little thought, something I heard actually today that I wanted to put together. And I've been thinking about kind of like reactions and what we're given. And sometimes things pop up in our life and we're not prepared for it. We might succeed, we might fail, whatever it is. But kind of telling off of what Daddy preached yesterday. And it was actually in one of the graphics that I put up about the broken bones, David dancing with broken bones was kind of the central story of what Daddy preached. And I started thinking about that verse and what he was given. He didn't plan on kind of domino affecting his life the way that he did. He wasn't asking for that. And so many times we look at somebody's life and we're like, how could you do that? How could you do this? And because somebody's been dissected for story after story, time after time, if somebody put my story in a book for 2,000 years, my goodness, what could they say about me? So I really try to understand that at the same token and understanding like, what was his mindset like? What was he thinking about? And what was he encountering? And, sometimes we scramble, we're a lot of scrambling type people and we feel rushed. We feel like, I've got to do this to cover this. And then this comes up and I've got to say something or do something in order for it to be steered right. And it's like, I'm honestly trying to get it corrected. I'm trying to get it corrected, but it's not happening in the time or the fashion that I thought. And I just end up making more of a mess of it than I really intended to. And so Psalms 51:8 if you want to turn there with me, it says, "Make me to hear joy and gladness, that the bones which thou hast broken may rejoice." And, you know, the very cliche term or phrase is life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? I think the term life gives you lemons is kind of the origination of the phrase. Just saying, hey, life sucks, is basically another way of terming that. And then somebody was like, well, since it gives you lemons, make lemonade out of it. And a lot of times I've heard that used countless times. And so I'm somebody that tries to pull non-cliche out of the air, much less anything that you've heard before. I've always grown up that way. I hate being the person that wears the same clothes, says the same thing as somebody else, looks the same. Like, I'm always an interchanging, type individual. I've always been that way. I don't want to mimic anybody else. And so I really honestly try to avoid anything cliche. So I feel like, and I hope that this will kind of reframe your way of thinking when it comes to this too. But we're going to reword this and make your thoughts change a little bit about the phrase. But a couple things are, what's the worst lemon you've ever been handed? Or even lately, what's the worst lemon, metaphorically speaking? Or, I mean, you may work in a restaurant and give me an example of a literal lemon that you've been given that you were like, I can't do anything with this, right? The question is, did you try to make lemonade right away? Or did you sit with the lemon for a bit? Did you sit and ponder on it? And we can use metaphorically speaking a little bit better. So let's just say you were handed a situation, or you went into it right away. And did you sit with it and take time with it for a little bit? Or did you feel like you immediately had to make the greatest out of it? See, sometimes what I'm saying there is, we will take a negative situation and we're like, okay, I need the good out of it. I need the good out of it now. I need to figure out, maybe it might have been a way for us to feel like I didn't waste any time, or it was for a good purpose. And we know that, but we're trying to figure it out immediately. Instead of just being like, man, understand the depth of what you're experiencing right now, right? If it's not good, then experience the not good, And I feel like we don't allow gravity to set in sometimes with our scenarios or our situations that we encounter. And we don't end up really reacting the way that we truly feel like we should. We react, or we respond in a way that we feel like we technically or by the book should. And then we end up regretting later, or honestly having to rehash it down the road. And, I think about certain things that I've experienced, and I feel like there have been times where I did not respond the right way. I responded in a way that I thought I should have. And then I got down the road and realized I should have handled that in a knowledgeable way and been truthful with it, because now I'm having to deal with it later. And I might have took that energy that was really supposed to be for this situation and used it for something else, and it wasn't intended for that, right? If somebody makes you mad and you don't, and I'm talking like responding and addressing it right there like it should, or just reacting in the right way. And I take that and just bottle it up, and then I lash out later down the road. It's like I'm misusing the energy. And that's just one small scenario, but like taking time, I read different and watch different videos about how people deal with body language, and they deal with people. And they say when somebody's going off on you, and I used to deal with this in cellular sales very often on a daily basis. When somebody's just losing their mind and they're screaming at the top of their lungs, or they're just snapping on you, take time and just be quiet like this. 5 seconds. And let it sink in, and then say, are you okay? I'll tell you a scenario. I'm not exaggerating whatsoever. I was in Elizabethan, and I was dealing with a lady, and I tried my best to help her. And I'm like, hey, I will promise I will help you if you can keep your cool and you relax and you listen to me. If you don't listen to me, I cannot help you. She goes absolutely off, cussing me out in front of the whole store, which was about 15 people. And she gets up and walks out. And I said, see ya. My day got better the moment you did. But she came back like 10 minutes later. She had never left. She got in her truck and told her husband what happened. And he told her to get back in the store and apologize to me. And she comes back in sobbing and sits down and says, I'm so sorry. I think it was maybe a family member had passed away or something had happened. There are two different scenarios of this exact same encounter. And it was one had a family member passed and one didn't. So I think this is the one that didn't. But something happened. And I was like, everything is okay. You were fine, right? But you just have to understand I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to. And so when we were able to really just like let everything be out in the open and be real, then we finally got somewhere, right? But it's like so many people are trying to like hide, or whether it's by their pride or by their emotions, they're trying to hide something or the truth, and they're not encountering it in the way that it should be. And it might be this lemon, right? But the saying is making lemons out of lemonade. And the guy that I heard today said, why don't we just eat the lemon? And I was like, oh, well, that. And he said, or suck on the lemon, if you will. I'd rather eat the lemon myself. But we just need to eat the lemon because we don't need to sugarcoat it and we don't need to water it down. Whatever has been given to us, if it's a lemon, then eat the lemon. Take it for what it is, right? Don't try to make it something else that it isn't. It's a lemon, man. This sucks. And I think Job took his situation. He lost his cattle, his livestock, his family. The only thing he didn't lose was a wife that begged him to curse God. So, I mean, really, what kind of relationship was there, right? At that moment anyway. So, I mean, loses everything, his health and all that. And I feel like him going and stripping down to his bareness was, of course, a signifying of Jewish tradition, right? But it was also like showing that I'm experiencing my grief right now. I don't think people grieve right. I think people feel like they can't grieve. They can't fully, and if you look there, even his friends said that. They're like, why are you still crying? Why are you still sad? And people try to implement their level of grief or their sorrow timeline upon you and say, hey, it's time to get better now. It's time to, and it's like, no, I need time with this. Your timeline might be different, and it might be different for whatever you're experiencing, right? It might be if you lose a loved one, give me some time. Like, get off my back. Leave me alone. Let me take time. And I feel like that's eating your lemon, right? I'm taking this for what it is. I'm not trying to make it something it isn't, and I'm not trying to glorify it. I'm not trying to embellish upon it, right? I'm not trying to make it more than it is, but I am taking it for what it is worth. And I think that is very true. It's something that we need to do as individuals. I think I need to speak to men on this one. I feel like a lot of older men, 30s plus, feel like they can't express the way that they feel. They can't get their true thoughts and intentions out. We're misunderstood individuals. We feel like we just got to get up and brush it off. We've got to be the one that's looked upon. And we're humans too, right? I mean, we got feelings. We've got ways that we respond, and we've got different intuitions than most people. And I feel like mental health in men is something that's very much overlooked, and it shouldn't be, right? We need to eat our lemons too. I myself need time with things, and you can marginalize it as much as you want. I feel like a lot of people are entitled to their opinion, obviously, but they sometimes make it more than it has to be. Just take it for what it is and say, hey, this is my opinion about how they feel, just like Job's friends did. And we look at Job's friends and we say they were ridiculous in the way that they handled it. You might be viewed and ridiculous in the way that you handle somebody else's situation. Like, give them some time If they need, just know that you can be there, right? And stop feeling like you have to control somebody else's situation. Like, kind of butt out of it, give them time, and when they're ready, they'll come to you. I always say, and I say this in the salvation side, but I would much rather somebody or a friend or acquaintance, associate know they can come to me at any time and never do than them try to avoid me because I'm trying to embark on what they've got going on. But if you want to just kind of go over the Psalms 51:8 with me, it really talks about bones being broken, but David understands his sin. So we talked about like the victimless side, right? The side that I'm okay, but I just need time. This is the side where I've committed sin or I've done something wrong, right? And I need time. So he understands his sin is so serious. It's like bones broken, where he says in the text, bones which thou hast broken may rejoice. So he's wanting things to get back to normal, right? He's wanting things to get back to the way they were before, but understands what he has done has caused this situation. A lot of people explain this imagery. His soul's pain, the collapse of his spiritual structure, and the fear of condemnation. The phrase, make me to hear joy and gladness, shows he's not skipping to happiness. He's asking for restoration after real hurt. So he's not saying like, let me skip to the good part. I think that's the song, right? Let's skip to the good part. But he's saying, I want it to just come. I want it to be possible, right? I'm not asking to get past my sowing and reaping process. I understand that's going to come. Just let me know that there is a restoration ahead. You know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. That's really mature if you think about it. It's just saying, just get me to the light at the end of the tunnel. I know I'm going to have to experience the darkness between here and there, but just knowing that it is there and it is valid helps me, because it shows me that it's not just a one and done. Like, I could do something that completely butts me out. Like, I've got to have that. Basically what I'm saying is the relationship with Christ in my life outweighs anything else. And to say that that's over or that can't be restored to the way it was before, like, would break me, keep me broken. To be whole again would be restoring that relationship. And that's the grace and mercy that Christ embodies by being the head of our life. Is if it doesn't mean anything to you, then you could just live broken. You could just live like, I don't care if I got a lemon or not. Like, it don't matter. I'm going to do my own thing and just let the chips fall where they may. There's a difference in living that way and living in a way to where Christ is a sinner. I have done wrong, but I want it to be restored like it was. Like, that's my ultimate mission. Why God doesn't give immediate sweet lemonade sometimes? Because the rawness matters. We need broken vessels and the reality of dependence. The lemon moment refines us, reveals us, leads us to deeper faith, not just surface comfort. I like that because it's the recollection of those times that I did wrong that makes me stronger. Do I wish that I wouldn't have committed those things or done those things? Obviously, right? David would go back 1,000,000 times and never have Uriah killed, never even look at Bathsheba a 50th time. You know, a lot of times we are like, oh, it was the second time he looked. He probably tried to talk himself out of it a lot. And it was just like, I just got to have it, you know? And he got to that point. But 1,000,000 times over, he would have taken that back. Just like the things that we have in our life, we would take back too. But knowing we can't gets us to a better place, because now it's like I have experienced the repercussions and I don't want to again. So I'll avoid that, knowing what it causes and knowing the hurt that it inflicts upon my life. The bones metaphor echoes both judgment and restoration. The brokenness is real, but so is God's healing, right? So understanding that the healing process is just as evident as the brokenness, and not glossing over that fact, right? Everybody wants to point out somebody else's brokenness, where somebody goes wrong, but show where they go right too, right? With David's situation, oh, it's so easy to point out him and Bathsheba. It's so easy to point out Uriah, but look at like what David was able to accomplish afterwards. Like you think of Paul, all the wrong that Paul did before Christ, and then what he was able to rectify afterwards was really the motivation from those things he did wrong. And I know that was a spiritual conversion, but still, that's what motivated Paul to do so much more. We could take Peter, what Peter did before the cross, and him being really Jesus' right-hand man. But when it come down to him getting it, and the day of Pentecost happening, and the power that he embodied as an apostle came from the things that he did wrong. So we need to look at what they did right and how they honored Christ and how they honored God in their life just as much as we want to point out the wrong. The Hebrew behind bones in verse 8 connects to the very structure of one's life. Your inner frameworks. The broken bones show not just external pain, but internal collapse. A lot of times if we don't see physically someone suffering, we think that they're okay, when it could be internal, right? Me and Kelsey talk about this all the time. Kelsey is in her 20s, and if you wouldn't really think anything of it, you think, oh, well, she's, sweet little girl and she's got nothing wrong with her, but she has chronic illness and fibromyalgia, and the list goes on. I don't want to go into much detail, but all these things that she suffers with, and people just think, oh, she's okay. Even doctors going to doctor's visits and just thinking, well, she's in her 20s, she can't be experiencing this. Yes, she definitely can, But that's just a thought that comes to my mind when a lot of people are suffering and you have no idea what's going on. I think there was a young kid that just committed suicide, 10 years old, and just got done. They said there was no signs. He had all kinds of friends, had a good home life, and had just got done with a trip or something with his friends. And the next day commit suicide. And you don't understand what people truly go through mentally. And you think just because of their tie to other people or just their social status or just the way that they seem is their entire genetic makeup. But there's more to it. There's more to your inside. There's more to your internalness than people will give credit for. That can be good and that can be weighing, right? But here it talks about in David's time, bones often pointed to defeat or impending death, but God intends recovery and rejoicing. See, when a bone's broken, if it's left alone, it's not going to mend the right way. There's going to be a visible issue, right? A visible knot or not weakness because it was deformed basically. But if you put that thing together the way that it should be, I had a broken bone in my foot, and it's so funny. I jumped off of a pallet jack just messing around when I was 20. I was 20 years old probably, and just snapped the bone in my foot. And I talked to the doctor. He said we could put pins in it and you recover after 4 months, or you could just leave it alone and it recover after 4 months. And I said, why would I put pins in it if it's going to recover at the same time? I just leave it alone and put a boot on it. And it did. And do I have feeling differences? Yes. And I recall those times where I broke it. But to look at it, you would never think that it was ever broken. And that's God's way of restoration in healing, is to seem as if it never did happen, right? If you think about it, when people mess up or what we want to consider sin or what we want to consider whatever, the reaction to those people, the forgetting part, is not like what I'm trying to get at is we as humans don't have the power to forget, right? It takes supernatural power, and I did a study on this before, to forget. Like, I can forgive you without forgetting what you did to me. I can't, like, literally, remove that out of my brain, but God has a way to forget. That sea of forgetfulness was created so that he could literally cast. I think the name of my lesson was called God Cast, and showing how he literally cast it into the sea of forgetfulness. And the act of casting was supernatural because only a God of magnitude as he has could do that. We can't do it. I can't forget. I can act without implications of remembering, but I cannot forget it. And that's what makes God so unique and so powerful and transcendent. But I really just want to, I had a lot more. I just really want to get to the end here and say, use this prayer in your life. Lord, you know our lemons. You know our broken bones. We ask for joy and gladness, not by skipping the pain, but by trusting you in it. Teach us to walk honestly, to serve faithfully, to live transparently when others expect us to pretend or to produce lemonade. Help us instead remember that you are our sweetness, our restoration, our rejoicing in the deepest places. Amen. And I pray that anybody watching this can really take what's given to them and make the most out of it, right? Sometimes when you're given a situation where God has to intervene anyway, it's almost like I can't lose, right? It's nothing that I can do. So I'm just waiting and sitting back, or like I can't mess up when I feel like I have nothing to lose. Maybe something's instituted in your life where you're like, I just need to stop caring about what people say or think. Maybe that's why the lemon's there. Maybe it's because you need to trust God more. Maybe it's you need to involve yourself less, or stop listening to others, or be more independent, be more dependent. I don't know what your situation is, but there's a reason why it is there. And ask yourself, these are a few more questions. Which lemon are you holding on to right now? It could be pain, setback, failure, loss, shame. Are you trying to cover it up with lemonade, or are you letting God walk you through the sour? Is a great question. How will you respond this week? This is we're in Monday night. This is your chance to respond in a week of preparation, right? What does bones which thou hast broken may rejoice mean for your service or ministry in youth, group, at home, or in school? You might be watching this and you're in one of those. What does that mean for you? And you might be in a whole state right now, right? But we all need to be broken. We all need to be in a place where we're like, I'm not going back to that. And I pray that you can experience that in a way that, with stubborn people, I feel like God might have to do it more than once. It's like, I've got to get this message across. But let us be sensitive of enough to where that lemon doesn't have to be, they talk about, there's this one story I saw about this man that prayed over his lemon trees and they produced lemons like this big. Let's try to keep the lemons average size, right? Let's try to keep the lemons feasible and know what it is and be sensitive to God within it. Not just when it happens, but through it, and adopt that sensitivity with your relationship. It might be a way of God saying, I need you to be closer to me this way. I need you to be, and I'm talking to myself too. I need you to be more sensitive. I need you to ward off those things a little bit better. I need you to be more resistant to the enemy, be more resistant to your flesh, be more resistant to those things, and be more acceptant of mine. And that could be something that could help you as well. So if you get anything out of this, if you got your lemons, you can go get you a lemon today. And if I encourage you to buy a lemon or grab a lemon from somebody, a lemon slice or a lemon wedge, and just eat it, think of me so that you can remember this lesson. Let us pray. Lord, thank you so much for all you've done for us and for bringing us back from Manna Moments. Pray that if there's somebody here that is not saved, that they'll come to the knowledge of you, Lord. Just understand it's so much better with you. It's horrible without you. I don't know how anybody lives without you. I hope that they understand that they need you in their life. And it's so simple. Stop complicating it. Stop listening to man saying you got to do this, got to do that. Just understand that by your example, they can understand how they should live their life. And by having you in it, who better to tell them than you, Lord? I just pray for all these things, and remember these different things coming up with the holidays, with bad weather, bad health circumstances that people are going through, that you'll be with them, and all these prayer requests, and pray that we can remember each other, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.